Good evening, everybody. Camera's right there, microphone is here, my laptop is here. I think it's the 30th of April. We're 8 o'clock, probably just a little bit late. Thank you very much for waiting. My name is Erik, and we're going to do another webinar tonight. It's going to be on what is it again? Mental overdrive, how to relax. All right, so let's see who we have here. We are on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Zoom. We're also on Instagram. So everybody who's here on Zoom tonight, welcome guys. It's great to have you. So we have Elise, Young, and Daly. Good to see you again. And I'm going to meet you soon this week, I believe. Then we have Becca Rose. I think Becca, we met before, haven't we? Then we have Kate. We have Kathy Lincoln. We got Emily Swan, Aisha Steele. Jitendra, hey Jitendra, are you back again? That is fantastic. Just saw you last night, man. Cool to have you. So, what else? We got Juliet Grafferty, then Marta González. Marta, ¿de dónde eres? ¿De España o Latinoamérica? Let's see, what else? Excuse me, guys. My cursor is just failing me a bit. We got Paula Dominguez Barreiro. Sounds very, very Portuguese, if I'm right, or Brazilian, Shirley. Okay, and then we got James. All right, guys. So, very, very quickly, since this is a webinar, we have the chat open. And it would be nice to let us know and let everybody else in the group know, where are you from? Maybe you have a specific reason why you're coming to this webinar tonight. So, it would be lovely to hear from you. Where are you from and why are you here joining this webinar? Now, I myself, I'm Dutch, I'm from Holland. You probably guessed it already. I don't have very much that English or Irish or American accent. Sometimes people tell me that I do have some of it, which I always pride in that. Of course, it's a nice compliment, right? But I've only been in Ireland for about 3 years. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is to pass on information. We're going to do the same thing tonight. We're going to pass on information, which is all about the mind, guys. It's all about the mind. How does your mind work? How does it cause you stress? How does it cause you unwanted sensations and feelings? How does that limit your potential? So basically, in one phrase, what is holding you back? What's causing you stress? What's limiting your potential? That's what we're going to be discussing tonight. By the end of the hour, you'll have a better picture of the whole thing. But you will also have an idea what you can do to handle that, to get that out of your system. Right now, of course, we're going to make that link with the overdrive and the inability to relax. So hopefully it's going to be a bit of an exciting range of data, let's put it that way, right? So let me just go back to the chat. People are already chatting away. I love that. I've always loved that. Participation is great. All right, so let's see what we have. Marta de España, living in the UK. Fantastic, Marta. All right, Elise from Norway. Fantastic. Becca from the UK. Hola, amigos. James is there. Fantastic. Okay, good. Then we got Juliet. I'm in Ireland. Heavy overthinker, beat myself up, or we're doing things wrong, lead me to be a perfectionist. All right, Juliet. So hopefully you're going to get some insights in that tonight. Yeah, where that is coming from. Cool. Then we have Becca. Me too. Yes, exactly. Isha. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Isha. You're from Scotland, Edinburgh. All right. I would love to go to your city. I've seen pictures. It seems such a nice, picturesque place to go. Would love to go there. All right. So Marta, many negative thoughts. Okay. Jitendra, Ireland. Yes, we know that. All right, guys. Thank you so much. So first, I'm going to do a little analogy with a computer. Yeah, with a computer. So you've probably seen that your computer most of the time gives the right answer. And sometimes can actually give a wrong answer. It can even give a no answer. So how would that go? Let's say you have a CPU, a central processing unit. That is your Intel chip or whatever kind of chip. This is the heart of the computer that does all the computing. Yeah, basically, it does all the problem solving. Now, what does it need to solve these problems? Well, it needs basically data that is already there. So it uses a memory. Right? It uses a memory, and you would enter a question, for example, and you would expect an answer, right? Very, very simplistic, rudimentary sketch. Now, let's say you have a question and you pose that question to your computer, where is London? So the question here is, where is London? So what is your computer going to do? It's actually going to look in the memory. Now nowadays we also have internet, so maybe it's not in that computer bank. Hang on, I've got something here, just remind me tomorrow. Good, my computer was just giving me a pop-up. So maybe that information is not right there in the computer itself, right? In the memory banks of the computer itself. So maybe the computer has to go to the internet. So the internet, of course, has a memory as well. All that stuff is stored over there. It will just retrieve the data and it will give the answer. It is in the UK. All right, so now we would actually have a correct. We would actually have a correct answer. All right, now let's imagine there's an expert who's a hacker, and he's able to modify where London is, and he actually is modifying that all over the internet. Now all of a sudden, London is no longer in the UK. It just happens to be in the state of Virginia in the United States. So you ask the question, where is London? Your CPU is actually going to look for that data on the internet, finds that it is in Virginia, now gives you an answer. It is in the USA. Well, you will actually have a wrong answer. Mind you, the same thing is happening in our minds. So this whole idea about how to build a computer was actually invented by humans. And humans kind of like figured out that we have a mind, and that we process the data that we have stored in the mind. More about that a little bit later in the webinar. So we process that data we have in the mind, and now actually we come up with an answer. Now, finally, you can imagine you have a no answer as well. When you've seen that with your computer, for example, you try to start up your computer and it's booting. It's booting, it's booting, it's booting, it's booting, it's booting, it's booting, and never comes to normal. It seems like, once again, something is wrong with the memory. Some conflicting data in the memory, and now that computer, that processing unit cannot process the data. Right? So that's the outcomes. So as an analogy, we're gonna cover that idea, like how does a computer work, and how do you operate with your own data, with your own, let's say you as a computer, and how do you use your mind. All right, so to that extent, what I would like you to do is, let's do a funny thing, yeah? Let's do a few little exercises. Now, what I want you to think of is primary school. And when I say primary school, maybe you could think of, for example, the building itself. What are the dimensions of the building? What is the color of the building? How many stories did that building have? What kind of roof did it have? Was it flat? Was it pointy? What did it look like? Maybe when you see the building, you could also see the playground, the courtyard, perhaps, and where you would actually enter the building or leave the building, enter the playground and leave that side again. Likewise, you might be able to see one of these classrooms where you have been and see the color of the classroom, and imagine where would the blackboard be, where would the teacher sit, where were the windows, and where was the door, where would you come into the classroom and leave it again. So I have a quick question for you here. Did anybody of you get some glimpses, some flashes of pictures? Did you get some flashes of pictures? In other words, did you get some memories that all of a sudden appeared? Could you see pictures? All right, all right. Anne says yes. Becca says lots. All right, that's fantastic, Becca. Emily Swan, yeah. All right. So, what is your mind? Your mind makes pictures. Let's do another one. Let's just do another one. Maybe you're sitting in front of your laptop, in front of your computer. You may have a TV. You may have a TV. Now, where do you keep your remote control? Where do you keep your remote control? See if you can actually get a picture. Did you get a picture? Maybe it was in a drawer. Maybe it was on a table. Maybe it was on a dresser. Maybe it was on a whatever. Some people just keep it in the sofa. But you might have gotten a picture there. Let's do another funny one. What I would like you to do is just imagine from where you are sitting right now, just imagine you walk over to the kitchen, and you open the drawer, and you'll find some cutlery in there. A spoon, a fork, a knife. Now, once again, so did you get that picture? Did you get that picture that you can actually open the drawer and see what is inside of that drawer? Did you get that picture? All right. Okay, that's fantastic. So it learns this one thing, yeah? Our mind makes pictures. Let me do a little sketch here for you. So there's your body. Your mind could be considered to be a long footage, you know, like this Hollywood style films on tape, a long footage, just like that. However, as we are going to discover, these pictures here in that footage, they're not exactly two-dimensional. They're not like Kodak pictures that you can hold up and inspect. Well, of course you can, but there's a bit more to it, yeah? So your mind makes pictures, and we call them mental images. So why would you call them mental images? Well, for the simple fact that they're mental, they're not physical. They're not something you can touch, right? This is not tangible. You cannot touch that stuff, but you can experience it. Now here's a fun fact. Let's say some of us probably have, you know, a specific sound that just keeps going in our mind, right? And all of us, you know, and all the time you keep hearing that sound. It's like it just won't vanish. It could be a song. You get nothing to do and you get that song in your mind. We all have experienced that. So that means, you know, something is just running around all the time. Likewise, you could see, for example, something scary in front of you, like a picture. You have the idea that there's always something there, right? These are just your pictures, yeah, and you can experience. You can experience that. You can perceive there is something there. Now, the next thing I would like you to do is imagine being in the living room again, in the house where you grew up. So let's go back to the house where you grew up, in the living room. Be in the living room in your favorite chair where you would used to sit. And you could be there as a child, as a teenager. We don't care. We just don't want you to be in this house in your mind right now. But go back to the house where you grew up as a child or as a teenager. Just go back there. Imagine it just sitting in your favorite room in the living room again. Now, if you have that, let's do the following. What I would like you to do, just do that for yourself in your own living room or where you are right now. Just from where you're sitting, point toward the TV. Where would it be? So from where you're sitting, where would it be? Pinpoint where was the TV in that room. And what kind of a TV was it? Was it sitting on a dresser? Was it wall mounted? Was it one of these big boxes, or was it one of these flat screens? What kind of a TV was it? Try to see if you can get a picture. Now, next thing is find a table, any table in that room, from where you're sitting, and point at it. See if you can actually get the shape and the dimensions and the color and these kind of things of the table. Next thing I want you to do is find a window, any window, just point at it. Where would the window be? In my case, I had a big one over there, a big one over here. Finally, let's find a door, any door. And the door right behind me. Maybe you can actually get the color of the door, the tallness, the size of the door. All right? All right, good. So I'm going to ask you again. Did you get some pictures? Did you actually get some pictures here? Right, we got a bunch of yeses. James says yes. All right, and Daly, yes. All right, Becca says yes. That's great. All right, Juliet said yes. Yeah, good. All right, love it, guys. Beautiful. Now, so what we see right away, there's something special about these pictures. These pictures, as we just demonstrated, they are three-dimensional. These images are three-dimensional. So you can actually think back of the living room, just imagine that whole living room about you again. And you can actually expect every side of the room, right? And just see what is there. Maybe any paintings, maybe any frames, plants, fireplace, what have you. It's all there. Right, now, here's a fun fact. So, that is your mind. And your mind is one thing, your brain is distinctly different. These are two very, very different things. They're very different, which I'm going to show you now. So, we have been convinced, the whole world has been convinced, that all these pictures happen to be in the brain. And we just demonstrated that it isn't. Because you did not say, well, the TV is right here. The table is right there. The window is right here. And the door is right there. You didn't do that. Instead, you pointed out about you. Right? You saw these things about you. Not inside your head. Not behind your eyes. Not on your eyeballs. But actually in space. So that's a very good reason to call them mental images. All right, so if this is your body, then here we have the mind. So now let me ask you, what is looking at these pictures? What is actually looking at these pictures? Let me ask you that question. Maybe you want to put it in the chat. What is looking at these pictures? What just looked at the picture of primary school? What just looked at the drawer? What just looked at the remote control? What just looked at the living room? What was it? All right, so we're going to get some fascinating things here, right? It tells you, when we have different answers, it tells you that we don't really know. If this would be a talk for mechanics, and you would ask, well, what makes the engine run? They would say fuel, right? There's no doubt. Everybody would say fuel. Without fuel, the engine wouldn't move. All right, so now we have mind, eye, memories. Okay, well, this answer is so simple. It is so simple that's been completely overlooked. Sure, you want to know what the answer is. The answer is, it's you. It is you. All right? You are looking at your images. Now, what are you? What are you? Well, first of all, we could say you are an intelligence. You are an intelligence. Let's say you come home. I got some keys here. You come home and you put your keys on the dresser, right? You put your keys on the dresser. And now you're going to go to the living room, and then you decide to go upstairs, and then you decide you go to the attic, and then you go decide and you take a shower, and at some point you look at your watch and gosh, I actually should be going and do some shopping before the shop closes. So you put your coat on, put your hands in your pocket, you're ready to go, and now you're like, where's my keys? Now, most likely, you're not going to go to all these different rooms. Most likely, you're going to look at your pictures. You're going to look at your memories. You're going to find the picture where you actually put your key. Now, your mind will tell you where you last put your key. So that is using your intelligence. You can actually see right away the analogy with the CPU, the central processing unit, the heart of the computer, using the memory in order to solve the problem. Where is the key? Yeah. Now, okay, so you're an intelligence. We could say you are an energy. You're an energy. You endow that body with energy. If you're in a very good mood, gosh, you have a lot of energy. You just move around and you're brisk and you're swift and you can do all these things. And when you're in a very bad mood, when you're down, oh my gosh, it is hard to get that body out of the bed and move it over to the kitchen where you have some difficulty to make a cup of coffee, to just pour that in and hopefully you're going to wake up. That is because you endow that body with energy, right? Now we could go on and on and on, right? But all we want to know, all we want to find out is what is there to know about the body that I can actually use? Okay, well, there's stuff about vitamins, minerals, nutrition, good food, exercise that might actually, increase lifespan, gives us a better life. Okay, that's good. Well, what is it? What kind of knowledge can actually use about the mind? This is more interesting. That thing here just lasts 75 years on average. That's what they found out, right? So after some point, you can actually put it in the bin. It's ready for recycling. But what is your mind? What is your mind? Is there something there in your mind, perhaps, that is holding you back? Could there be something there in your mind that is holding you back? Now, if so, how does that happen? And how do I actually get rid of it? Now, you may have had this idea that sometimes you're stressed, you're nervous, you don't want to be. Where does that come from? Well, the answer is there, and we're going to dive into that tonight. Lastly, maybe you want to know, how much better can I get? What is actually my full potential? How do I achieve? How do I attain that full potential? How much better can I become? Right? So here you got two very, very interesting fields, areas to know more about. Right? All right, now let me ask you a question. So we looked at a couple of things. We looked at primary school. We looked at the remote control. We looked at the drawer in the kitchen. We looked at the living room where you grew up. Yeah. Now let me ask you: did any of you feel any kind of an emotion coming up? Some kind of like an unwanted feeling, unwanted sensation that just kicked in suddenly? Did you experience something like that? And all of a sudden, just by looking, by memorizing, that you observe that something came back to you. Some kind of an emotion. It might have been a pleasant one, it might have been an unpleasant one. Right? Okay, so most of you guys actually perceive that something actually came back to you. Right, so thank you very much for answering. That's great. It tells you right away now that in these memories, you have emotions. You have emotions stored as well. These emotions are stored in these memories, right? If you would think back of a moment of a severe loss, a loss of a loved one, or a loss of a possession that meant a lot to you, or maybe a loss of a pet animal, or a job that meant everything to you, you connect up to that, you're going to connect up to the emotion, and you're going to feel that emotion again. Is that right? Is that how it could work? Does that make some sense to you? All right, I guess it did, yeah? Okay, so I'm gonna leave some of that here. I'm gonna wipe some of it as well, yeah? Okay, so let's imagine the following. Maybe some of you guys have actually done a driving exam. You got some driving lessons, and at some point you had to take the exam. Or maybe at some point you had to speak in public. Maybe in school, maybe at work. Maybe you had some experiences going to job interviews. So let's say we take these three subjects, right? Exams, public speaking, job interviews. Now, let me ask you a question. If you have experienced that, exams, job interviews, speaking in public, at some point, did you notice that you were stressed, that you were nervous, that you were anxious, that you had a knot in the stomach, something there, whoop, butterfly feelings in the belly? Did you perceive that? You did, right? All right, so what is going on here? What is going on here? That seemed like a sabotage, didn't it? It's like all of a sudden your faculties are hampered. It seemed like a sabotage. Something kicked in here. Let's just call it stress. I see that my blue is not too great. So there was something there that controlled your body. We're going to take an example. Let's take public speaking. You're up in front of the classroom, or you're up in front of your colleagues at work. Now you notice that your legs go kind of shaky. Your legs go kind of shaky. You got that knot in your stomach. You smell, oh, that's bad. I'm smelling, transpiring. My heart is going, gadang, 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 gadang. Your heart is bouncing. You feel like you got your heart in your throat. You got a dry throat. You feel like, oh my God, I need to drink more. I need to drink more. I need to keep on drinking. No matter how many glasses of water you drink, you still keep on having this dry throat. There's something there that takes over the control of the body. It is a complete body sabotage. Now, likewise, the same thing could happen with your mind. You actually thought about, let's say it's a job interview, I'm going to make these comments about that factory or that company, and I'm going to ask them certain questions, only to find out when you walk out of the interview and say, gosh, why didn't I ask that question? Why didn't I mention this? Likewise, you have to speak in public and you forget all these things that you were going to talk about. In other words, it seems like there's like a mental shutdown. You cannot access your mind. You cannot access what it is actually that you were going to talk about. So we get a body sabotage, we also got a mind sabotage. All right, now, have you seen this for yourself in real life? You've been in these situations where you felt like, oh my God, there it is again. Man, I'm almost dying, fainting from the stress that I have right now. Well, I just talked about water. Let me have a sip. So that is the question. Have you seen that kind of like body, mind sabotage in your own life? Okay, you guys have, yeah? Now, so now let me ask you, did you want to feel that way? Okay, so Anne says yes, quite regular. James says, oh yeah, all right. Emily, yes, I think that was, all right, right now, cool. All right, so my next question to you is, do you want to feel that way? Do you actually want to feel that way? Okay, so James says no. All right, Emily says never. Right, and no, absolutely not. Isha, no. Marta, no. All right. Okay, so something is going on here, right? It seems like there is something there that is limiting you, that is pulling you down, that is causing a lot of stress. It controls you, but you don't control it. You cannot turn off that switch. It simply controls you. It takes over the control over your body, over your mind, but you cannot shake it. You cannot control the switch. It's, you're not going to have a chance. You cannot do that, right? So in other words, there is something there going on. All right, now let's see, how does that work in real life? How does that work? I'm going to give you a very, very practical example, okay? So we're going to go a couple of years back. Just imagine you were in some kind of an incident. You walked inadvertently into a dark alley. This is the dark alley, and you walked in there. Okay, now I'm going to be a little bit discriminatory. Behind you, there is an Asian person. He's an Asian person, let's call him A. And then there's a black person. Let's call him B. And there is a Caucasian person. So, Asian, black, Caucasian. Caucasian means white, yeah, from Europe. So, we got 3 ethnicities. You're walking into that dark alley, you're actually getting a bit nervous because you got 3 guys following you, right? 3 guys are following you. At some point, you feel this foul pain and you pass out. You pass out, there you're lying on the floor right now. Some moments later, you wake up again. and now you're terrified. It happens to be pitch dark. Okay, you're in pain. You feel disoriented. All right, well, let's just keep it there. So that is an experience here. Let's just take that, all that, let's just take that experience here. That happened many, many years ago, right? It's somewhere stored in your mind. Now, pay attention. A part of that incident actually means that you were unconscious. There's an unconscious part in the incident. And there's some memories there, right? But these are quite faint. All right, so fortunately this happened many, many years ago, right? But it's nevertheless still part of your mind recordings. Now, you walk down the road, that direction. It's getting late, it's getting dark, and all of a sudden, you find yourself in a dark alley again. So I'm going to ask you, what is your mind going to do now? What is your mind going to tell you? Juliet says, I am not safe, or it's not safe. Okay, so what else is going to happen? Any other answers? Take your time, put something in the chat. I'm really curious what you think is going to happen. But Juliet says it's not safe. That's a very good answer. Right, Anne says find a way out. Suppose, Anne, that means fleeing, right? What else could happen here? All right. Isha says, feel scared, anxious. James, fight and flight. Becca, danger. All right, guys, good answers. Good answers. Fantastic answers. Here actually is where the mind makes mistakes, guys. The mind makes mistakes. What does it do? It actually identifies this dark alley with the dark alley many years ago. Your mind's got this automatic, that is the key word, automatic protection mechanism to warn you that you should not be there, or else. And that's where it makes the mistake, because this moment in time is not the same as this moment in time. This dark alley is not the same as this dark alley. All right, so now you got triggered. You got triggered. You're in that dark alley. You say, oh my God, I'm in danger. But I still have to go that way because I have to go home. But you're already triggered. You might already get a bit nervous. You might already feel like, I gotta watch out here. Okay, now let's say Let's say we aggravate this a bit. You're just continuing to walk, and all of a sudden you look, well, let's say you look back, and now suddenly you didn't see them before. There's a Caucasian guy and an Asian guy following you. And meanwhile, it gets pitch dark. What is going to happen now? What do you think is going to happen now? Fear, run. Exactly. So what is happening is that this incident now is more and more approximating the incident here. So this thing kicks in even more and starts to use the force of emotion, being terrified, starts to use the force of pain. It will also make the person fear that he is completely disoriented. So there is a lot of charge in that moment. That one kicks in right now, makes him feel like he's under a tremendous amount of stress. And now he can no longer think logically. He starts to identify these things. So that is the basic mechanism that is behind this. Whenever you're, let's say here, facing your boss, and your boss makes you kind of nervous, that means there is something there in your mind that just kicked in and that tried to warn you. Like, bosses are dangerous. You better turn around. You see an audience here and you want to talk in public, something kicks in and it tells you an audience is dangerous. Whenever you have this mind sabotage, body sabotage, essentially is what is happening is that your mind is giving you the wrong information. London is no longer in the UK, but it's in the United States. It's giving you the wrong information, and it enforces that information upon you. Rather than telling you what this dark alley is all about, it now confuses with an earlier incident that happened to be painful and emotional. So there is a problem. There is a problem. Let's see the time. All right, good. Now, what is a problem? Let me try to explain that for you. In the meantime, does this make a little bit of sense, guys? Of course, we don't have the whole evening to talk about it, but I was just trying to get the concept across, yeah? Just for you to know, we're actually going to go into the solution, but just for you to know, hey, yeah, I can or I cannot relate to this. There must be something in my mind that's causing this trouble. Does that make sense? Okay. So, now let's imagine again, you are this central processing unit, right? You are the problem solver, simply just you. And you have a mind. Which is that footage? It's got all that information. And in that entire footage, your mind, you have stored all these pictures, and they're accompanied by ideas, decisions. Wipe that out. I did that wrong. Decisions, conclusions, whatever you want to call it. Yeah? It's all in there. So, let's say you've been going to job interviews, and you went to 5 or 6 job interviews, and you didn't get hired. So, you have a failure there, you have a failure there, you have a failure there, you have a failure there. And now, you're going to go to another job interview. Do you think that you're already going to enter that job interview with a preconceived conclusion? Or with a preconceived idea about the outcome? What do you guys think? So if you had a couple of failures in a row, do you think that your next job interview is going to have a certain outcome? Maybe, right? Yes, exactly. So your mind is telling you it's not possible after a number of failures. Whereas what you want is you want to make this possible. You say, yes, I want that job. So now we got 2 opposing factors. So your mind might tell you no, don't go into that alley, don't talk to your boss, don't speak in public, don't do this, don't do that, whereas you actually want to do it. So you get 2 opposing factors, right? Now, when they are of comparable magnitude, you get this procrastination. Shall I do it? I can't do it. I think I can do it. Shall I do it? Or maybe I do it tomorrow. Basically, when you have 2 comparable factors of comparable magnitude, the whole thing doesn't resolve. It kind of like hangs in time. It lingers in time. This is what we take to bed. Shall I do it? Shan't I do it? Can I do it? Can't I do it? This is what we take to bed. There's something in the mind there that tells you it's not possible, whereas you think, but I want to make it possible. So we get a timelessness. This whole thing here is actually, that is the anatomy of a problem. Problem is just very simple. It's just 2 opposing factors. You want to open the drawer, and the drawer says, no, I don't want to open. Like the drawer doesn't yield. It doesn't give in. And you pull and pull, you get more upset, you get more angry, but the drawer just doesn't go anywhere. It just, the drawer stays put. So you know you got 2 opposing factors. Another one would be, you want to go to the movies, but your wife wants to see her mother. When they're both, equally strong and you're constantly dealing with the same thing, you got two opposing factors. When you have that, that is the anatomy of a problem. When they're about the same force, the same idea, the same decision, obviously it doesn't go anywhere, right? And the first thing that we're going to get from that is indecision. I hope I spelled that correctly. The first thing that we're going to get from that is indecision. You want to do something, but your mind tells you can't. Let me get my notes. Where did I put my notes? Let me have a look. So I'm just going to give a few examples to make that a bit more real. All right, here we go. So, just a question here for the chat to make it a bit more real. Now, have you ever thought one of these thoughts? I'm not good enough. I'm simply not good enough. Or I always mess things up. I can't handle this. I don't have what it takes. I'm just not good at this. Have you ever had any of these thoughts? I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. I can't handle this. I don't have what it takes. I'm just not good at this. Have you ever had these? Yeah? You ever had these? Yeah? So, this is your dark alley thing lingering in your mind. It's simply a dark alley thing that is in the mind, and it is still sabotaging you. That's the whole anatomy. There's something there that you don't know about, nevertheless it's there, that is sabotaging you. And it actually has those conclusions. Like in the previous example, that guy would probably never ever go into a dark alley again. And whenever he would actually go into a dark alley, he might probably say, I'm going to piss in my pants. I'm scared shitless. So he's got that decision in the recordings. And when he's actually getting close to that recording, that thing is going to kick in. Now, some of these recordings are just constantly there. They're constantly having an impact on you. So, that's how we get indecision, and now we get that computer is just going, booting. It can't find the answer to solve the problem. Yeah, can't find the answer to solve the problem. Now, okay, so we're going to make this very simple. We got 5 minutes, maybe we need 10 minutes, but the good news is there is a solution. There is a solution. So, let's take something funny, yeah? I'm gonna give you a whole different example, but it'll just come down to the same thing. We take this individual here, and he's been having a HA, which means he's been having headaches. He's been having headaches for the last 30 years. So here is his time track. This represents 30 years. And every day, he's been having headaches. But he says, as a child, I never had any headaches. It just started at a certain point. But more recently, I know that my mother-in-law gives me headaches all the time. So the last 30 years, every day, he says, you know what, I am actually going to try psychotherapy. And he actually sees a psychotherapist, and the guy takes his calculator and says, well, 30 years times 365 days in a year. That is 10,000 incidents. That is 10,000 incidents. Well, sir, if you want to handle your headaches, you will spend the rest of your life on the sofa in session with me. In other words, that is not a workable solution. So how to solve this? How to solve this? So at the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you a book, but I'm going to give it away. What was discovered? What was discovered is very interesting. Any of these chains in your life has actually a root source, or let's say a root cause. And there is a therapy which you can do yourself with another person. It might seem intricate at first, but it's actually quite simple to do. I've done it many times myself, and it works amazingly. Which is, one person is actually guiding the other person to look into his mind and recount incidents. By recounting, I mean picking a very specific incident and actually recount it from the very beginning to the very end of that incident. So let's say here we have an auditor. This is simply somebody who listens and who computes. And he asked him the question, for example, can you recall a moment that you had a headache? He is going to look into his mind, and he finds this incident here 2 weeks ago. The auditor is going to ask him, okay, go back to the beginning of the incident, go through the incident and tell me what is happening until you get till the end. He does that, and that procedure is repeated. And every time it's repeated, more and more data will come up. There happens to be pain, headache, and unwanted emotions in that incident. But while we are going through it again and again, this starts to erase. This is the sabotage content that starts to erase. Now, that procedure alone, right away at first, it can actually give the direct result that the person feels like he's completely bright. He says, gosh, no need for a headache anymore, right? He actually has regained a lost ability. Likewise, nothing might happen. We're going to continue now and ask if there is an earlier similar moment. An earlier similar. He's going to look again. He finds an earlier similar here, and he runs that from A to Z. Likewise, it can actually dissolve. It doesn't bother him anymore. Or we need to run another earlier similar. At some point, he is going to find the culprit. He's going to find the culprit that actually put the whole thing in motion. When this one is found, this one is fully discharged, that whole chain of 10,000 incidents is gone. The headache is gone. It won't come back. Now you can actually look for another chain and say, well, but maybe you've been having your daily worry. How about your daily worry? Yeah, you seem to be worrying all the time. Or how about, regular upsets? Upsets and disagreements. How about procrastination? So you could make a whole list of all these unwanted things in your life that's just keeping your mind busy. You're not even aware of the thing. It's just that there's something there that holds you down. Now with this therapy, you can actually quite fast find the root causes of all these chains, of all that buildup that is constantly sabotaging you, limiting you. And with each chain that you erase, your vitality will come up. You erase another one, and your vitality will come up more. You erase another one, and it will come up more. And at some point, you have erased them all. When you have erased them all, we get this. And we call that clear. Clear is very, very high vitality, which is energy, very high IQ. No more illness. And a lot of regained abilities. So this person before, he couldn't do public speaking. He handles what is holding him down. Now he no longer has that sabotage overcoming, that sabotage controlling him. No longer the knot in his stomach. Now he can actually confidently speak. He has regained ability. In other words, there is this method that you can do to actually go into a mental overdrive in a positive way. Get rid of all that negative shit that is in your system and get into fifth gear where you can actually live life and enjoy it. All right, guys. It is just past 9. So, I got a very good question, Marta, and I'm going to give you the answer right away, and I'm going to introduce you to the book. So, basically, your mind is a fascinating thing. It has memories, like primary school, like the living room, things you can vividly see. And when you're actually in a room together with somebody else that you can trust, and you can just close your eyes and look at these pictures, you see them even more bright, more brightly, more vividly. Now, there's also these moments of unconsciousness, like during birth, an operation, a knockout fight, what have you, and you don't have any memories of that. However, you have recordings of it. In other words, it has been recorded like a song has been engraved on a long play record, right? So you don't have a memory, but there is a recording. And with a special technique, you can actually go through that recording and eliminate the harmful content that is in it. It takes a little bit of practice, and with a little bit of practice, you get better and better at it. And you will be able, anybody, trust me, anybody is able to do that. Now, what I presented you tonight is actually coming from this international bestseller. The book is called Dianetics. It means through the mind. It's called The Modern Science of Mental Health. It's a book on the mind, sold 22 million copies in 50 languages. It's got its own glossary in the back. So you could have it, well, I just said 50 languages. You could have it in Spanish, Brazilian, Portuguese, German, Dutch, Afrikaans, Italian, French, Zulu, Korean, Arabic, Russian, Ukrainian, you name them. The first part of the book is all about how does your mind work. The second part of the book is about the therapy. How can you use this in your daily life? My colleague is going to pop up a link for that. We're offering this book for just 20 euros, about 18 pounds, including shipping. So I would actually recommend you guys to have that book, avail yourself of it, find out what you are all about, what it is that holds you back, limits you, that causes you this mental overdrive in a negative way, and how do you turn it around into the mental overdrive in the positive way. Right, for anybody who actually was really interested in handling this stuff, and you maybe want to put yourself on a path of improvement. You want to improve certain things, and maybe you have some personal questions for me. Pavel, my colleague, is going to put the number he just did. He put the number in the chat. Ends with 918. That is my telephone number and WhatsApp number. Just feel free to send me a text anytime. If you have any question, I'm more than happy to help. Yeah. So before we end off, guys, do you have any question, any comments, any questions? Certainly have appreciated you guys being around and being so chatty. That was lovely. I think I should have asked a bit more questions because in the end, I tried to wrap it up a bit fast. I realized it was a bit out of time. Any questions, guys, before we end off? Okay, Becca. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the compliment. Very good session. Nice, helpful. Okay, glad it helped. In all simplicity, you got some quote unquote dark alley incidents in your mind that just kick in all the time. Now, obviously, that has nothing to do with a dark valley or dark alley. It might have, right? But it's these kind of incidents which have had an impact on you, and still sabotage you today. And that is actually the subject of Dianetics. How do you get that stuff out of your system? With the method, you get it out of your system permanently. It doesn't come back. You cannot erase your pictures, but you can erase the negative, you can erase the bad content, the bad effect of it. Emily, thank you. All right, really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time. It's remember me to work through things instead of blocking them out. Good, good, Isha. And okay, thank you. Great, interesting, and informative as always. All right, guys. So it's been fantastic. For the guys who live in Dublin or in Ireland, we actually have started to do in-person talks as well. This is every Tuesday in Fur House, Dublin 24 at 7 o'clock. So if you ever want to come by and see how is this done for real, maybe even experience a session yourself to see how that stuff works, let us know. You're very welcome to come over and get a demonstration. All right? You guys, I'm not going to take more of your time. Thank you so much. It was very enjoyable. I hope you got something out of it. Next week, we're again with a different topic. For now, have a great rest of your evening. And once again, any question, feel free to WhatsApp me, and I'll make sure I'll help you with additional films, answer your questions, what have you. All right? Bye for now.